Welcome back to Network Spotlight. I'm Mikhail. Jeff is the co-founder and program architect of Web3 Builders Alliance. In this episode, we'll discuss WBA's efforts to recruit and train elite blockchain programmers to strengthen the ecosystem during all phases of its growth. We'll delve into how WBA supports projects by providing resources, as well as creating open source tools to advance the ecosystem. If you enjoy this podcast and want to support the channel, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment any takeaways. Your support helps us bring more valuable content to you and others who are interested in Web3 and blockchain technology. You can also contact me on my socials with any questions or comments. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the episode. Jeff, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you here. I always enjoy our conversations. I had you on the Twitter space and you're part of the Network Spotlight community. You've always engaged and you always have so much energy. Uh, Before we get to like what you do in Web3, like where does that energy come from? That's my first question.
I always joke around that, as a kid, I was hyperactive and a pain in the butt, and I'm pretty much the same as I am now. But then it was immaturity, and now it's youthfulness. I guess the semantics change as you get older, and you appreciate the energy of people. But look, I was born with it. I was an ADHD kid before they existed. I was a kid who liked to build stuff and take apart stuff and put it back together because it was active. I didn't just collect baseball cards. I mean, I would organize them and collate them and aggregate them all over my room just because it was an active thing to do. So sports, activity, I just have always had it. And, now I'm highly caffeinated. So that helps too. And I like what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, so speaking of building, you are either the founder or co-founder, right? I believe there's like three of you, four of you,
Four of us, yeah.
that are building this amazing community of developers, and that's just tip of the iceberg. Tell me a little bit about Web3 Builders Alliance.
So when I retired from my education career, I spent 30 years in private school education here in the States. I knew I wanted to get into Web3 full time. A former student kind of sent me down the rabbit hole, and it was really the breath of fresh air that I needed in my life at that time. And you know, I met up with a couple of guys, Chauncey, Nate, and Dan, and we're all from like the Terra community, and they were building this project called Terra Builders Alliance that was trying to solve the emerging problem of the bottleneck of quality developers in Terra as Terra was growing. We could all shed a quick tear and then move on. And then, basically the idea was the ecosystem was growing so fast, they couldn't keep up with quality developers. So, train in-house, grow your own developers, come up with a really good curriculum, train mid to senior level people, and also do it in a way that is in a live cohort model for a couple reasons. First of all, attract your Web2 people that's the way that they're most familiar with learning and getting professional development. Bring a more professional flavor and component to Web3 development, which is important for adoption, something I believe very strongly in. And also have a verifiable portfolio that we know that these people did this, because our thesis was at the time, and still is, that you make a bad hire, it's going to cost you a couple months and probably $30,000-$40,000 in money and productivity. So if you spend 2 months, 2.5 months learning with these people in a live manner, you know what they know. You've seen them build it themselves, and you know what kind of people they are, so you can really identify culture fit. And frankly, you're not going to make it through what we do unless you're someone who is collaborative and and values oriented. And there are a lot of people that we are not the right fit, but for the people that are, the right fit and we're a right fit for them, the results are really good. So, the idea is to continue to focus on quality over quantity, and to continue to review ourselves and do better. The other thing the live course allows us to do that's really amazing is the speed of innovation in the space makes any video that you made a month ago maybe outdated. And the fact that, first cohort we did in Cosmos, we were able, as soon as IBC was ready, to build our own test chains and relayers and test out ICS 721s. We were able to do that because we were live. And we were able to do that because we had the relationship with our people that it was okay to go in and say, no one here's an expert. This is new. Let's figure this out together. So, that's what we do. We train developers. We build stuff. Not only does every cadet build a unique use case application. I'm not talking about checkers games and incrementing counters and stuff like that. I'm talking about real use case. They have to push it to testnet in order to graduate. But as a group, we build. We do scoped builds for founders looking for developers. We put our developers in projects that are building and need specific talent. And we're also now working on some more entry level content, because all of our cadets have to make videos during the course on concepts as part of that presentation-based learning model that adults can show mastery when they make a video of something. So that's actually building a library for some of the more new people to test us out.
That's interesting because I think many of us, we may have a specific skill, but being able to explain it in a form of a video, that's a totally different ball game. And I feel like it uses a different part of the brain, and it, like you said, it really highlights your level of expertise and whether or not you truly know what you're doing.
Totally. Yeah, I mean it's mastery. There's in the American education system, about 10, 12 years ago, a concept came out called PBL. So originally it was called project-based learning. And people started to take that and apply PBL to whatever they thought. And so it went from project-based learning to problem-based learning to process-based learning. And, from my experience there and doing professional development with teachers, it occurred to me that presentation-based learning is equally important to the other ones for adults, because in order to stand in front of a crowd and be an expert, you have to have a level of mastery that goes maybe beyond the previous three.
So when you are, walk me through like the journey of these cadets. Like, where do they typically start when they first enter the program? And how do they find the use case? Is it while they're in the process of learning, or do they already come in with an idea and they just need the building blocks to help them solve it?
So, one of the things that we really try to cater to is that everyone's different. And so it varies across both of what you just stated. And we try to give everybody an opportunity to be most comfortable with their comfort zone as far as what they want to do, but also push their comfort zone with the learning side of things. Your first question, how does their journey begin? We're not for the hobbyist or the noob. Need to have a little bit of chops. We are a lean startup, and we're in bootstrap mode. So, you're looking at the marketing team and the guy behind the Twitter and the guy who does a lot of those types of things. We go out and find the people. And with every passing cohort, we know what that portrait of a cadet looks like better. What kind of skills are predicting success in the course. And our attrition rate is about half the people that start finish, which is okay. A good percent of those people that don't actually do the course again, realizing they need to enter it maybe with a little bit more skill, or a little bit of a different commitment level. Because we really want to find those people that want to be full-time professional Web3 developers, not I'm going to do this, during the weekend and dabble in some code. There is a place for those people. And we're going to create some more content for those people. But usually the journey begins with connection, wherever that might be, conversation. I've probably talked to everybody who's come through the course prior to them starting, whether it's in Discord or getting on a quick chat or whatever, because, it's good for us to be able to say, hey, be honest, tell us about yourself a little bit, where you are. If you're willing to put in the work, I can help you get ready. If you're going to be ready in a week when the cohort starts or a couple months when the next one is, I'll tell you, and I'll give you as much material as you need to prepare, and come to our Discord and engage and start working. And what this is allowing us to do is to get an increasingly high level of applicant and candidate and cadet and graduate. But it also it's that litmus test of commitment. I mean, are you really willing to put in the work? Because, before we got on here, we were talking about the Web3 life is not for the timid. It's not for the people that just want to put in a couple hours a day. It's a grind. But it's a beautiful grind. I mean, we're having fun here. But from there, we get them into the course. And as far as the capstone goes, about 3 weeks in, we have an official capstone meeting where Nate, one of the other founders, and I come in and we talk to the cadets about, all right, look, some of you have ideas about what you want to build. Some of you have no idea. We partner with ecosystems that bring us in, we're on Solana now, and we're talking to a few others, and we've been in Cosmos, and we determine a list of capstone menu items. For the people that don't know what they want to build, we basically ask, what do you want to see built? What does the community want? What is a gap? What is needed? And so, internally, we'll review those things. We'll scope them out. We'll think about the viability of getting those, developed during the course. We'll talk about product market fit and go-to-market strategy and funding opportunities and marketing and BD and all those things internally. And then we'll create a menu and say, look, you can do what you want, and here's how you would do what you want. Or you could choose from this menu. And typically we create a menu that is diverse enough that it should appeal to all the different people in the room. And so far, so good in that respect. But when we talk to ecosystems and investors, we tell them that this isn't just provide us with some backing and disappear. We need to partner with people that are going to provide us with some hands-on advisory and engagement. And that's frankly, Solana has been excellent about that. We're in a room with those guys and we're talking daily about what do you guys need. One of the first things that they asked us, they said, gosh, we would love to have like a truffle ganache developer suite on Solana. I said, okay. They're like, well, really? I'm like, yeah, we could do that. And we did it for the Grizzly hackathon, and it's really awesome. We're actually going to demo it during our enrichment week next week. So cadets then mull for about a week, and during that time, they create what we call a letter of intent, and they basically come up with here's what I want to do, here's why I want to do it, and we're big on the why, because if you're invested in it and you have some deep understanding of why you want to build something, that's gonna that's a predictor of success. And then an introductory idea of what do you plan to do, what's your stack, what's your vision at this point. And we tell them, look, that whole part of it is in pencil, because that's going to change. Then we have them do some early workflows and sketches, and we let them use some different technologies for developing those those diagrams, whether it's Miro or some of the other tools that are available. And then we get them going, and once all of those are approved, we create an individual Discord chat for each individual project, mostly individual cadets. Sometimes they work in partners, and it's our whole team. Our whole team is an advisory, but we also bring in people from the community that have specific domain skills in that area as advisors. And the cadets are responsible for the code, and our teachers are in those also, so they can provide technical support. But we provide, product market fit, like I mentioned, go to market strategy. If it's an economic tool, what are your tokenomics going to be? What kind of, if is it an options thing? Are you going to use the Black Scholes? What are you going to use in this? And just kind of help them understand the product side. Not that they're all going to be founders and product experts, but those that want to are going to at least have a base understanding of those components to be in a conversation as they build out their team around it. And that's the journey. And then we finish the course. That allows them to sharpen their lens when they're in the class, and target the questions they asked about concepts. In that, look, I now know what I'm building, and while I'm getting this fire hose of content, I know that I'm going to focus on this stream just a little bit more, because that feeds me what I need to be able to write the code for this project that I'm building. And we get to the current point where we just finished yesterday the cohort, and we're now in what's called the Capstone window, and they're just heads down. I mean, they're alive in the Discord. They're setting up one-on-ones with any of us that need us, or that they need. I spent the morning chatting with cadets from all over the world, because we serve a global community, and just talking about stuff and getting them going. We watch closely. We know these people well because we've spent a lot of time with them the last couple months. And we prompt them and we push them, and we don't let them quit, or we slow them down from trying to come up with V3 when V1's not done. So, it's a process. And then we get to the end, and we have some cool stuff that's, a lot of them have legs.
That's really cool to I'm sure, like, you watching that entire process from when they come in to actually having something that is almost tangible, like you said, has legs. I mean, that's got to be a really cool process to kind of see everything play out. My question is, how do these cadets, how do they determine what chain they want to launch on? Because you mentioned
Yeah.
Solana, you mentioned Cosmos. These are all um, networks that are utilizing Rust-based smart contracts. What's the difference between the two?
Wow. How much time do we have? Um, just for your first question, in Cosmos, they have a little bit more of an opportunity to choose which chain because there are so many of them. We do guide them as far as good fits for their product, but also not all Rust CosmWasm contracts are the same and can be deployed the same in Cosmos. So we do guide them in that respect. Some chains are much different to launch on than what we teach, because you can't teach it all. And so, originally Juno gave us our first grant to launch, and forever grateful to them and Jake Hartnell and their confidence in us. So all of the original cadets pushed to Juno testnet. And, our agreement with people that step up and back us in that way is that, we're going to launch to your testnet. We're going to push them to, push to mainnet in your environment, so that so that there's value for your investment in us. But this time around, our current cohort on Cosmos is they're pushing to a number of different chains. The nice thing is that we are super well networked in and know a lot of people across that space, that we can go to them and say, you may not know this, but the culture and the product market fit for what you're building is good for this. We're going to make an intro and get out of your way. So we'll make some intros and say, this product is good fit for this chain. Let's introduce you guys. Let's see if our instincts are accurate and see what can happen. And so that's really what's happening now as well, is that we're making those connections. Solana's a lot easier and different in that, if you're in the Solana course, because they are two different courses. If you're in the Solana course, you're pushing to Solana, and you're going to Solana testnet, and it is a much more linear path to deploying, in that it's one chain. And there's a lot of different ways to skin every cat, but in this case, deploying to Solana, it's not going to be different as it would be, if I wanted to deploy to Juno or, Nori Denom or something like that. So, um, differences between the ecosystems, I'll start with the similarities. They're both really smart Rust-based domain-specific language frameworks. So in Cosmos, you have CosmWasm, that is Ethan Fry's brainchild. Ethan from over at Confio. He actually, with his team, designed that and built that in a hackathon a few years back. And it's a gold standard. I mean, it's really excellent. And if you've ever seen native Rust smart contracts, you will very much appreciate what CosmWasm does. Because what a framework does is it basically abstracts away just what you need to be able to design the contract. It gives you an outline and a process to follow that is organized and consistent. And you're doing all of those customizations and then testing it and so on. So, the underlying technology in Cosmos is also very fast. The consensus mechanism is time tested and proven, and people are working on it constantly. So there's a lot of really amazing things happening with that experience. Solana has what's called Anchor, which is a similar in philosophy abstraction of what the original Solana native Rust contracts were. What people used to say, "Oh my gosh, it hurts my eyes to look at it," because it was hard. And interestingly, just as Ethan built that CosmWasm smart contract model during a hackathon, Armani Ferrante, who designed and built Anchor, he didn't intend to do it. He came to our class a couple weeks ago, and he was great. He didn't intend to do it. By the way, he is Coral, which is the group that's behind XNFPs and Backpack and Mad Lads. If you're familiar with the Solana ecosystem, super smart stuff. But he's like, I didn't intend to do it, but I'm sitting there working, and I'm like, every once in a while, I'm going to go, abstract this away to make it easier for myself and others to build. And suddenly we have this framework that that is really simple. If you look at an escrow contract in native Rust on Solana, and it's about 7 pages long. If you print it out, which I do because I'm old and that's how I have to do it. Um, or you look at the Anchor version of it and it's like 2 pages. It's because he's found a way to say, look, this isn't every contract. I'm going to abstract this away and make it into a little piece that taps into that other piece just to make it easier for everybody to build. And it's really given Solana a very, big step up, in the number of people that are building there. They just had 10,000 people in their last hackathon that produced 800 something projects. That's a big boon. Because it's a more accessible process now. And it's fast. The underlying tech in Solana is fast. I mean, it's fast, it's beautiful. It takes a lot of advantage of the benefits of using Rust versus, say, Solidity. You have this concept of parallelization, which I could explain to you if you want, but it just allows the speed of transactions, and it's got great scalability as well as increasing number of people adopt the Web3 way of life and transacting in this way. Solana is built for that. They're built for um, the long term.
So I want to address the elephant in the room
Okay.
from the media standpoint, right? Solana, 10 different crashes over the course of a year or so. It's been down a few times,
Mhm.
probably for the reasons of it being so fast and they scaled so fast. But when I look at the level of activity from a development standpoint, it's still there. I mean, when you compare um, the developers that are building on top of Solana to the developers that are building within Solana, the actual Solana chain, there's just as many. So are people just not phased by what happened to Solana or?
So look, I there's a lot of ways to answer that. I'll try to give you a couple of them. The metaphor I always go with is, first of all, the beautiful thing about Web3 is you can choose which community you live in. You can choose which community you have your business in. And whatever that is, you're going to accept the benefits and detriments of that community. And they all have them. Nothing is perfect. One of the things that Tolly, who's one of the founders of Solana, always says is they're still in beta, and it is. It's still in beta. We are still growing and learning and building. And there are different builders out there. There are people that will say, we're not going to launch this or scale this or push this until what's currently out there is perfect and stress tested, hama hama. And then you have people that are like, let's push and break shit and fix it and break shit and fix it and stress test it ourselves, not with like some Monte Carlo simulation, but let's real world it. And each one of those mindsets is going to attract the people that have similar mindsets that want to build there and won't be fazed by stuff maybe not working. Now, I don't want to de-emphasize the fact that if something breaks and people lose money, that's rough. I get that. I respect that. I mean, my personal investment portfolio used to have, Terra, Celsius, and Iron Finance in it. So I've been there. I felt some pain. But the other example I always give is, would you rather have a Lamborghini or a Corolla? I used to sell Toyotas when I was in college, and it's a great car. But I'd rather have a Lamborghini. That's me. I'd rather have a Lamborghini. And if it needs to be in the shop 4 or 5 times a year and I can't use it, that's fine, because I'd still rather have a Lamborghini than a car that's on the road 24/7, 365. Because you know what? When my Lamborghini's in the shop, I can go and drive my Corolla. I am not, I'm a Web3 maxi. I'm not a Solana maxi. I'm not a Cosmos maxi. I'm not an Ethereum maxi. I'm Web3. If Solana, is down because whatever, it's in beta. They pushed it. They stress tested it. It needs to be down for whatever reason. But whatever that reason is, it's not going to be the same reason next time because they're going to fix it. I can go over to Cosmos and interact. I can go wherever I want. I can go to SWE when it launches, and I've got choices. And so that's it's mindset, it's community. You can choose where you want to live. You can choose where you want to build your business. Do I want my business in a big city megaplex where the power might go out once in a while, but I'm going to have a lot more traffic, a lot more liquidity flowing through it in one place? Or do I want to build a mom and pop store out in the country that the power never goes out, but I maybe don't have as much traffic? These are choices we make, and it's to each his own.
So my next question is, what chain do you feel like has the biggest improvement within the next couple of years or so?
Gosh, I mean, I think they're all improving. I mean, when you think about, and I'll answer it, but I mean, when you think about how far we've come in such a short period of time, I mean, we are at breakneck speed. Breakneck speed. We've got John Wong from Solana Foundations coming next week to talk about NFT compression at our enrichment week. And I talked with him Tuesday, and he's like, well, I got some ideas about what I'm going to talk about. I'm like, things are going to be so different in a week. Don't tell me what you're going to do now, because a week from now, you guys will have stress tested this and people are going to be poking holes in it, and you guys are going to be filling those and making this stronger in a week. So for me to say, what do I think is going to be the most advanced from now to a year from now chain? I do believe the Rush chains are going to continue to make the most ground, because that's the trend. I do think that I think Solana's advantage is, and again, this is my personal mindset because this is how I do things. You know, let's launch the cohort and see what's broke and fix it, and see what's broke and fix it. And let's we just finished our first cohort yesterday, and the first thing we did was, all right, so we already have 7 or 8 things we're already going to do differently to make this better. But you got to live through it to see what needs to be made better. I think that mindset leads to faster innovation. I think, I'm very bullish on the number of people participating. And frankly, from my standpoint, and look, I have to be a little biased, as objective as I try to be in everything. Um, the focus on education by the Solana ecosystem and the Solana Foundation is unparalleled. Not a day goes by where they're not talking about a new program for education, and they know where each of these pieces sits. Ecosystems that do education right are building for the long term, because they're also going to attract those college graduates right into Web3. That's what you got to get. If you don't have programs for those people to be able to see a direct conduit from, I graduated CS and I go right into Web3 and I can get a job, like I graduate college and I can go work for Microsoft, or I can go work for the local software company. They've got to be able to see that. They've got to see a tangible, thoughtful continuum of education where they could jump in where they belong and know that they can progress. I'm biased in that respect because I'm an educator and I believe that, and that's how I'm wired. I think as of right now, Solana does that better than anybody else in the Rust environment. I think the teams the groups that do that best are going to be best set up for the future, because that's going to continue to, if I'm, Georgia Tech, which is right down the road from us here, and I see our graduates going and having success in one particular ecosystem right out of school because that's what they want to do, I'm going to continue to send our best people there. And now you have that pipeline where that decision doesn't have to be made by the 22-year-old. They know, and then those professors are talking about it in the classroom. And then it becomes part of their coursework to do research on these areas. So, because if you're an educator at the university level, you're looking at that. You're looking for the industries to get your people into, because your job is to sell people to come to your school that they're going to get a great education and then get into the industry of their choice. So it is that's my feeling. I think the ecosystems that push it hard and do education best are going to be the ones that are advancing the fastest.
What would it take for Rust to overtake Solidity as the number one smart contract language?
Well, so here's my thesis on that. And I use the word thesis more than I used to before, when I was even teaching writing. And so my thesis on that is basically, the guy who wrote Solidity, Dr. Gavin Wood, when he built his own chain, he used Rust. So Polkadot is in Ink, which is a Rust DSL, and they use the Substrate framework. Again, another example of fabulous technology. And you don't hear as much about Polkadot unless you're in that circle. But it's a massive, successful Rust-based ecosystem with super, super smart people building there. But when he got to choose, he used Rust. Solana, Rust, Aptos, Move, Sui, Move, a Rust-based DSL. Flow on Ethereum is written in Cadence, which is Move, which is Rust. Fuel, the new L2, which is super duper fast, Fuel network, written in Sway, which is Move and Rust. Cosmos, Rust. Near, Rust. New project Radix, Rust. So it's almost like a business decision versus a tech decision. Okay. The people that are starting or that are building new ecosystems that continue to use Solidity and EVM, it's a business decision. It's not a tech decision. It's a business decision to be able to tap into the Ethereum liquidity, because Ethereum is the first mover. It is the king of liquidity today. and probably will be for a little while. But those, Avalanche and all those, they're not choosing EVM because Solidity is so great. They're choosing Solidity because they want to be connected directly and integrate with the liquidity of Ethereum. Evmos and Cosmos or Aurora up on here, they're not choosing to be EVM, compatible because they like the Solidity smart contract language. They're doing it for the money. These other projects trying to build for long-term scalability and to be fast and cheap, they're doing it for a technical reason to focus on the business side of fast and cheap. So will Rust take over? It depends on what you mean by take over. If you look at the number of successful new chains that have launched in the last 6 months, or the growth in Rust-based chains, it's already happening.
Yeah. You mentioned Aptos and Sui, and there's a lot of excitement around those two chains. Is it because of the move language, or is it the team behind it? Like, what exactly is the reason why there's so much excitement there?
So, look, say what you want about Facebook, but it is an incredibly powerful, wealthy, and influential group. When they built that language, they hired the best people out there and paid them a lot of money to build that language. And what you have is the manifestation of that injection of capital into resource. Move is fabulous. It's beautiful, it's fast, it's safe, it's and not I don't want to use the word easy, but it's certainly easier than just plain old Rust, because Rust isn't easy, but it's great. I love it. And the Aptos and the SWE models are different in a couple of notable areas, but it's still Move. Mostly with kind of the resource management and the be able to program some resources and moving assets around. But yeah, the hype is real. It's fast too. The consensus mechanisms underneath are fast. The DAG and the Narwhal and Tusk and the hot stuff, these newer consensus mechanisms, they're fast, they're safer, they're moving, that it's effective. It's really good. And you know what? Sometimes first mover advantage isn't an advantage when people could look at what you did and say, I'm going to make it better. They could afford to go out and get top talent to do it. And they could stack these things on top of each other in a way that they work really nice. Because whereas Cosmwasm and, Anchor, there was some other stuff that existed before it. Move was made to do one thing, and that was to be move smart contracts. They didn't take something else and fit it in. It was built just for this. So, yeah, the hype is real. It's good stuff. And I mean, I use SWE isn't launched yet, but I use Liquid Swap and the Pontum products on Aptos, and it is slick and fast.
I appreciate you sharing these insights, because a lot of times, whether you're a builder and you're trying to figure out what am I going to build, where I'm going to build it, or you're an investor, or just anybody that's an enthusiast in this space, I think it's important to understand what's happening on the ground level, and that's exactly what you're doing with your community and helping folks come into this space. So really admire and appreciate all the work that you do, Jeff.
Thank you.
Where can people learn more about your initiatives?
So we do have a website, www.web3builders.dev. We've got a growing YouTube channel where you could see some classes. You could see our enrichment week, some cadet projects, cadet tutorials. We're going to continue to grow that. Once our person who's in charge of that channel gets off of a podcast. Um, and follow us on Twitter. Come build with us. Build spelled like DGen spell it with the D and DL switched, not like normies. And really reach out to me. I'm at Japper Jam on Telegram. I take every call and I talk to everybody that's interested, because it's what's fun for me. I'm in this for the fun, and for the learning and the growing and the feeling of being alive. So if you reach out, I'll take your call.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Jeff. Really had a great time talking to you today.